How can there be meaning if it's just a causal process in the brain that causes the content of our mind? How can that process have meaning? This question can be interpreted as asking about how can there be intentionality or how can there be understanding, and then we covered that in the previous videos. But here we are looking at the specific objection to what I've said so far, because I've said that the brain causes the content of our mind, and that's criticized by someone defending instead externalism, I mean. So my position would be internalism then, saying that it's the brain that causes the content of our mind. But some externalists will say that that's not enough. It's the world outside of us and outside of the body that determines the meaning inside our mind and head. So one famous defense of this is a thought experiment made by philosopher Hilary Putnam, and it's called the Twin Earth. And it goes like this. Imagine our Earth in our universe, and then there's an identical universe with an identical Earth, and we call this the Twin Earth, and everything is the same except for one thing, and that is that water on our Earth is H2O, but water on Twin Earth is XYZ, so a different chemical substance. But this is before anyone has discovered that water is H2O or XYZ. So everything that people say and think about when they talk about water, and they use the same word, water, etc., everything is identical, except from this fact then that nobody knows about, that water is H2O on our Earth and XYZ on the other Earth. So imagine then that we have a person called Oscar here, and we have a person called Oscar in the other world, but we can just call him Toscar now to distinguish the two. When they think about water, all the mental content in their head is identical, but they think about two different things. Oscar is thinking about H2O, and Toscar is thinking about XYZ. So that makes Putnam conclude then with a conclusion often cited: meanings just ain't in the head. So that's the defense of externalism. Meaning is more than just what the brain does; it's also dependent on the world outside. So that's a question, or that's what we're wondering about. If people have the same content in their head, is it then the same meaning, or is it different? Can it be different? How should we think about this? Should we go for externalism instead of internalism, as I have defended so far? Here's a suggestion for a solution: that we distinguish between meaning and reference. So in ordinary life and daily speech we don't, but here we need to be precise, and then I suggest this is same as I did in chapter 2 on meaning and reference in language, that meaning is the mental content that the person is thinking about when thinking about a word or sentence, etc., while reference is the state of affairs that the person, so out there in the world, that the person intends to refer to, or that someone believes that a term refers to. So that means that you can have same meaning in this sense, they can have the same mental content and still refer to different things. But how can they do that? If the mental content is the same, how is it possible to refer to different things? Well, it's because of the causal link between word and meaning, and we looked at this also in the videos for chapter 2 on how words get their meaning. Because a word or a sign, etc., can have any meaning. I could put X's on the blackboard and mean warships or football players or anything. So it needs to be this causal link, and that you connect it to something in the world that gives the word its meaning, even if it can change over time, etc. But that explains why when Oscar says water, he refers to H2O, because that's the substance that he has looked at and learned and has been given the name water in this on this earth, and Tosca refers to XYZ because that's the substance that they have named water in their on their earth. But I think that when we make this distinction, we can be even more precise and explain everything that there is to explain. So I've made another thought experiment. Let's imagine that Oscar visits Toscar, goes to this other Earth, and they're both thinking about water, and they have the same mental content, so they have the same meaning. But when Oscar is on Twin Earth, he can either think I would like some water, and then he would be referring to H2O, because that's what he has learned that water means. But if he says he sees a lake on Twin Earth and says, oh, that water looks nice, then he's referring to XYZ. By making this distinction then between meaning and reference, we can be completely precise about what's in their head and what are they referring to in the world, and there's no problem. And there's no problem in saying that it's the brain that causes the mental content, and that is meaning. That's what we mean by meaning. There's no need to disturb it and say that, or make a mess about how meanings relate to the external world. It's possible to describe coherently and precisely exactly what's happening. So the distinction solves the problem, and eternalism can be still defended as long as we are precise on what we are, what we mean. So that was the answer to the objection from externalism, and then we move on to the next video.